He has shattered the barriers of tennis as we know it. Those were the electrifying words echoed by countless fans and commentators the moment Novak Djokovic clinched his monumental victory at the United States Open. With emotions running high, and with every swing of the racket carrying the weight of history, the 36-year-old Serbian champion secured a place in the record books by equaling Margaret Court's total of 24 Grand Slam titles. How on earth did he pull off such a superhuman feat? And what does this mean for the future of men's tennis? Today we will plunge into the heart of Djokovic's latest triumph, unmasking the intense rivalries, the emotional showdowns, and the swirling controversies that make this victory more than just another sports statistic. In this in-depth exploration, we will look behind the scenes, delving into the psychological fortitude and tactical brilliance that propelled him to become the oldest male champion at the United States Open in the Open era. We will also explore the question on everyone's mind: what drives him to keep pushing, year after year, when so many others would have settled for greatness long ago? Our journey begins well before he stepped on the famous hard court at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Picture crowds roaring on a late summer afternoon, with the scorching sun casting elongated shadows across the iconic tennis complex. The tension had been building steadily from the earliest rounds, as fans and pundits alike wondered if Djokovic's bid for this record-tying crown would face a decisive downfall at the hands of a new generation of tennis stars. After all, in 2021, Daniil Medvedev had shockingly halted Djokovic's quest for a historic calendar Grand Slam right at this very arena. The memory of that heartbreak still clung to Djokovic's psyche like an unshakable specter, fueling him with a singular obsession: redemption. The unstoppable force and the immovable object were destined to collide once again. And oh, what a collision it turned out to be. In this script, we will dissect the match that ended with scores of 6-3, 7-6, and 6-3. But we will also delve into the psychological battles, including the intangible grit Djokovic summoned in critical moments. We will illuminate how Medvedev's brilliant dismantling of Carlos Alcaraz earlier in the tournament was in the final reckoning, undone by Djokovic's uncanny ability to serve and volley at precisely the right time. We will explore how Djokovic harnessed every ounce of experience, how he danced on the line between confidence and overconfidence, and how he eventually soared to that distinctive place where legends reside. If you find these insights riveting, this might be the perfect moment to tap that like button and let us know you are enjoying the ride. After all, the tennis gods themselves would probably nod in approval. Let us go back to that fateful Sunday night. Under the arena's intense floodlights, Djokovic walked onto the court wearing a determined expression, a portrait of pure concentration. All eyes zeroed in on him, from the high-profile celebrities glammed up in VIP sections to the families who had scrimped and saved so they could witness a piece of sporting history firsthand. There he stood, singularly focused, balanced, and on a mission to validate the sacrifices he has made for more than a decade and a half at tennis's apex. On the opposite side of the net stood a formidable opponent of extraordinary tactical acumen, Daniil Medvedev of Russia, tall, rangy, with a deceptively controlled temperament that can burst into unstoppable momentum when conditions are right. In the previous match, Medvedev had displayed near-flawless tennis, humiliating none other than Carlos Alcaraz, who had himself stunned the world by winning this very title in Djokovic's absence the year before. So, the symbolism here was powerful. Medvedev had abruptly stopped the dreams of the sport's newest shining star, and now set his sights on halting a living legend's path to rewriting history. One imagines Djokovic replaying the heartbreak of 2021 in his mind, the frustration, the finality, the emptiness that followed losing that match in straight sets. Could Medvedev conjure a repeat performance? The very first set began with a flurry of enthralling rallies. From the baseline, Djokovic hammered forehands that sizzled with depth, while Medvedev tried to angle his returns to push the Serbian off balance. From the first ball, it felt like a fierce standoff between champion and challenger, neither willing to give an inch. Then, in Medvedev's opening service game, a near-perfect forehand from Djokovic's racket exploded down the line, bringing up a cluster of breakpoints. The tension soared in an instant. With one errant swing of Medvedev's forehand, the break was Djokovic's for the taking. That early advantage became the foundation upon which Djokovic began to build, meticulously controlling the pace and forcing Medvedev into positions of discomfort time after time. Yet Medvedev was not about to surrender. He steadied his serve in subsequent games, holding on by the barest margin in a grueling eighth game. In that challenging seesaw, we saw the seeds of a potential Medvedev comeback, Like a python coiling around its prey, there is a slow, methodical quality to Medvedev's approach that can suffocate opponents if they allow him room to breathe. But Djokovic, perhaps remembering what complacency cost him in 2021, refused to let slip any psychological edge. After a nerve-wracking exchange in that 8th game, he capitalized on a slight miscalculation from Medvedev to close out the first set at 6-3. The scoreboard glowed, and the arena erupted in applause. But the deeper story was less about numbers and more about intangible momentum. Djokovic had seized that intangible advantage right from the start. Moving into the second set, tensions reached a fever pitch. A wave of speculation had been swirling among analysts. Could Djokovic maintain his mental steel when contending with Medvedev's unorthodox style? Ever watchful and impeccably prepared, Medvedev amped up his returns to more consistently trouble Djokovic's service games. Meanwhile, Djokovic began holding with such composure that certain spectators assumed, in a moment of perhaps arrogant optimism, that Djokovic's path to the second set would be straightforward. But tennis, as any seasoned follower knows, is a game of micro shifts. And so, with each extended rally, with each disconcerting approach shot, Medvedev edged closer to turning the tide. The enthrallment reached its height in the second set's 12th game. Djokovic, serving to avoid a dreaded tiebreak, double faulted twice for no apparent reason. Was it nerves? Or was it perhaps a physical twinge that we could not see? The hush that fell over the crowd was louder in its silence than any thunderous applause could have been. Fans craned their necks, fearful that history might slip away at the last possible moment. Medvedev, relentless and cunning, took advantage, claiming a set point that threatened to erase Djokovic's lead and shift the balance of power. But champions do not yield easily, and Djokovic is nothing if not a champion in every fiber of his being. He roared back at the net, conjuring a peerless serve and volley to edge away from the brink. The anxiety, the relief, the audible release of breath, it was all part of a cinematic spectacle that only sport can script. And so, the second set barreled toward a tiebreak. If Djokovic's fans were biting their nails, Medvedev's supporters were practically pulling their hair out. The mental warfare was excruciating. Who would blink first? The Russian blinked, sending a backhand into the net at a crucial juncture, handing Djokovic a commanding lead in the tiebreak. When Djokovic finally closed it out, the release of tension across the stadium could have powered the floodlights themselves. 2 sets up, and now we face the likely reality that Djokovic was 1 set away from forging tennis immortality. As the third set dawned, Medvedev's body language revealed a subtle but unmistakable slump. Granted, he tried to reawaken his spirit, and at one juncture he managed to break Djokovic's serve, but the energy was different. The Russian seemed aware that the hourglass of opportunity was draining rapidly. Meanwhile, Djokovic looked like a man possessed, eyes fixed on the horizon of history, stride purposeful, unwavering. Every precisely executed volley, every angled serve chipped away at Medvedev's determination. The scoreboard advanced relentlessly in Djokovic's favor, 4-2, 5-3. Could it be that we were witnessing the final act in a story decades in the making? Djokovic served for the championship. If you have followed tennis, you know that final service games can be tricky. Up 2 sets and 5-3, many a champion has been undone by a sudden storm of nerves. For a moment, it seemed Djokovic might surrender to that dreaded tension when he double faulted again, gifting Medvedev a glimpse of hope. Yet the champion responded with the clarity and calm that have become his trademark over so many Grand Slam finals. A final netted forehand from Medvedev sealed the deal, and just like that, the match ended. Djokovic had done it. 24 major titles, equaling Margaret Court. The emotional floodgates opened as Djokovic donned a specially made shirt emblazoned with the number 24, tears of triumph streaming down his face. To call it just another tennis match would be blasphemous. This was an exclamation point typed into the record books, overshadowing all the previous punctuation. People often talk about the greatest of all time debate, a swirling conversation that rarely leads to a conclusive answer, because greatness itself can be so subjective. Are we measuring agility, longevity, or the intangible ability to make an entire stadium gasp at an impossible defensive stab? Djokovic's track record now speaks for itself. With that monumental match, he eclipsed the achievements of so many legends before him, some of whom redefined tennis in their own eras. It is a feat that, years ago, would have seemed unattainable. And if you feel that rush of excitement wholeheartedly, do consider subscribing. It is in moments like these that we deepen our bond as fans of a sport that never ceases to amaze. But let us dwell on a more philosophical level for a moment. What fuels Djokovic's persistent drive? Is it revenge for being denied the calendar Grand Slam in 2021? Is it the insatiable hunger to stand all alone at the summit of tennis history? After so many years of competing with the likes of Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, perhaps it is the joy he finds in continuous improvement, an almost obsessive compulsion to test the boundaries of what his body and mind can accomplish. The story of Djokovic is also the story of an ambitious talent who had to break through barriers posed by Federer and Nadal, who for years, particularly in the late 2000s, were considered untouchable. Djokovic overcame that challenge and soared anyway, forging an identity as the dynamic disruptor, the man who would not be counted out, no matter how dominant the establishment seemed. Then, COVID-19 added its own bizarre twists, leading to Djokovic's absence from certain tournaments, igniting controversies that extended beyond sports into politics and health mandates. Some wondered if these disruptions might derail him permanently, fracturing his momentum. Instead, they appear to have sharpened his focus. Victory after victory in different tournaments guided him to this moment, culminating in the most spectacular achievement that Arthur Ashe Stadium has witnessed in recent years. Consider, too, the age factor. At 36 years old, Djokovic became the oldest male champion of the United States Open in the Open era. This is no casual statistic. Age is crucial in tennis, a sport that places unrelenting demands on the body. Even icons like Roger Federer, who extended his career into his late 30s, had to wrestle with injuries and the limitations that come from decades on the court. That Djokovic continues to sprint, leap, and stretch in splits along the baseline is extraordinary. It defies conventional wisdom on athletic prime years and begs the intriguing question: if he can do this at 36, might he continue to collect more Grand Slam titles, perhaps even surpassing the once mythic number of Margaret Court? Of course, achievements like these do not emerge from a vacuum. Success at an elite level requires a painstaking approach to training, diet, mental exercises, and a heavy dose of unwavering discipline. Djokovic famously changed his diet years ago to accommodate a gluten-free regimen, and he invests in a range of recovery techniques that many professional athletes have only recently adopted. Visualization, meditation, and breathing exercises are just a portion of the mental arsenal he employs. He does all of this to maximize performance, to quell nervous energy, and to remain calm under the punishing brightness of the world's most demanding tennis stages. The emotional dimension of this record-tying victory cannot be overstated. For the stoic champion who often masks his feelings behind an unyielding competitive veneer, the tears he shed on court after match point told a profound story. He could have pumped his fists in the air and roared at the crowd, but instead he bent his head, eyes brimming with tears, as though he needed to let the weight of the moment sink into his very core. After so many years of chasing, hoping, failing, and then picking himself up to try again, Djokovic had arrived at that glorious juncture, 24 major titles, side by side with Margaret Court. Perhaps it is only natural that the flood of relief and euphoria overcame him in that instant, when he finally had the chance to breathe and contemplate the immensity of the milestone. As for Daniil Medvedev, let us not forget the heartbreak on the other side. He remains a formidable competitor, one who overcame the seemingly invincible Carlos Alcaraz with jaw-dropping precision in the semifinal, only to run into Djokovic's unstoppable train come the final. For Medvedev, this feels reminiscent of earlier times in tennis history, when perennial challengers would reach Grand Slam finals, only to discover that the final boss was just a fraction too strong. He expresses no illusions about the harsh reality of facing Djokovic in top form, yet at the same time he exhibits a calm acceptance. He knows that with continuous dedication, he will have more bites at this apple. For Medvedev, the future remains bright and wide open, though he will likely carry the sting of this defeat well into next season. Now, as the dust settles and the crowds disperse from Flushing Meadows, we find ourselves pondering the next chapters this story might hold. With Margaret Court's record equaled, is Djokovic poised to stand utterly alone with a 25th major in his pocket at some point? Will Daniil Medvedev or Carlos Alcaraz conjure fresh strategies to dethrone this seasoned champion who, by all reasonable accounts, should be entering the twilight of his career? What about other up-and-coming players waiting in the wings, hoping the unstoppable Djokovic might show even a hairline crack in his armor. These questions loom large, alluring in their uncertainty. And there is the ripple effect across the tennis community and fans worldwide. Djokovic's success inevitably sparks renewed debates about the greatest of all time. Some will still stand by Roger Federer's elegance or Rafael Nadal's clay court dominance. Others will argue that Djokovic's numbers, with now a shared summit of 24 major titles, speak clear and loud. Then there is Margaret Court's vantage point, an era so different, with different challenges, different technology, and different playing conditions. Can we, in fairness, compare these distant tennis epochs? We can also talk about the deeper resonance of Djokovic's journey for aspiring athletes and fans. Perhaps the greatest lesson emerges from his focus on resilience. Time and again, Djokovic has been thrown off course, be it injuries, controversies, or shocking losses like the 2021 final to Medvedev. But each time, he returns, forging an even sharper skill set, an even more unbreakable mindset. That arc from heartbreak to redemption is universally compelling, showing that the path to excellence is rarely linear. Instead, it is a winding road dotted with pitfalls, tests of faith, and demands for personal evolution. As we draw near the end of this in-depth unraveling of Djokovic's triumphant moment, we invite you to reflect on your own experiences watching this legend in action. Were you glued to the screen during those nail-biting rallies? Did you feel the tension in your bones when Medvedev seemed on the verge of stealing that second set? Did you carry a sense of awe as you saw Djokovic, a 36-year-old, match the stamina and intensity of players a decade younger? If yes, you are part of the tapestry of fans who transform sports from a mere mechanical spectacle into a living, breathing phenomenon. Channel that passion and join us by subscribing, because the narrative of Novak Djokovic and tennis at large continues to evolve, and there will be more jaw-dropping chapters on the horizon. So, what are we left with? The final image is indelible. Novak Djokovic, standing tall under the lights, tears mingling with beads of sweat, wearing a shirt boldly marking his milestone with the number 24, a champion among champions, perhaps at the pinnacle of his storied career, yet apparently nowhere near finished. As Margaret Court's record finally meets its equal in the men's game, it stands as a testament to Djokovic's unyielding spirit, a spirit that once shocked the tennis establishment by dethroning the idols of a previous generation, and that now stands as its own mountain for the younger ones to climb. Will there be a day when Djokovic looks back on this moment and simply smiles, content that he conquered his most elusive milestone? If we have learned anything from him over the years, it is that he is not likely to rest anytime soon. This is a man who thrives on the chase, on the high stakes, on the chance to expand the boundaries of what we believe is possible for a human being. That unstoppable energy might well carry him to new heights, new achievements, and new duels with the next big phenoms in men's tennis. And we, the spectators, have front row seats to a show that promises the kind of drama and awe that few sporting endeavors can match. In the end, this championship was about more than a single match. It became an emblem of perseverance, a demonstration of strategic genius, and a grand affirmation of Novak Djokovic's unique brand of excellence. The echoes of that night will linger, reminding us that sometimes we live in an era where a titan can rewrite history in real time before our very eyes. Whether you celebrate him or root against him, there is no denying that Djokovic's journey is an epic story, one whose chapters continue to be written in sweat, tears, and the unquenchable thirst for greatness.